I will call the January 29th Licensing, Hearings, and Public Safety Committee. Roll call, Alder Heidemann.
Here.
Alder LaFave.
Here.
Alder Perella.
Yes.
Alder Russ is here, and Alder Pearson is excused. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Alrighty, we all know each other. We got
Who's the new chief?
the new police chief. Oh, he froze.
He's hypnotizing the flag.
He is, yeah.
Oh,
We're done.
all right.
Okay, there you go.
Alrighty, we have the new police chief,
That's a first.
Zempel. Alrighty, I am looking for approval of the minutes for the last meeting.
Moved.
Second.
All in favor of approving those minutes?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, those are approved. Alrighty, item number 6, general ordinance number 332425. An ordinance amending section 2-581 of the Sheboygan Municipal Code regarding residency requirements to delete the reference to the architectural review board.
All right, so in general, the Plan Commission approved an ordinance amending the zoning code to delete the Architectural Review Board and give that board's powers to the Plan Commission. Council will be voting on that next week. Because of that, as part of that change, we'll need to delete any reference to the Architectural Review Board in the regular code. Section 2-581 is that only reference. It just talks about the residency requirements for the Architectural Review Board. Nothing is going to change substantively. We're literally just deleting the reference as the Architectural Review Board will no longer exist. The ordinance will go into effect later on April 15th, and that's at the beginning of the new council year. At the Plan Commission's request, you'll also be seeing a further code change at a future LHPS meeting relating to ensuring that there is someone with architectural expertise on the Plan Commission.
All right, thank you. Any questions, comments?
I actually,
Yes.
yes, please, I actually didn't understand the beginning of what you said. So why as this, what triggered the removal of this point again?
So
City plan is
City
absorbing
Plan,
it.
the Plan Commission is going to be taking over the powers of the Architectural Review Board.
Okay.
The Architectural Review Board will no longer exist. So because of that,
Right.
we need to delete all of the references to a thing that no longer exists.
That makes
That's
sense.
literally all this is. There's no substantive
Yep.
changes.
Thank you so much.
Any questions? Yep,
Please,
Alder
Mr. Chairman,
Heidemann.
we don't decide who are members of the planning commission, though, do we? Because you said
Not in
something.
this, not in this board. I believe that the Common Council decides
So then,
altogether.
so, because I know there was some talk at the planning commission meeting about having somebody from the architectural review board on that commission.
Yeah, that's entirely possible. We wouldn't decide it in this committee. It would be
Gotcha.
decided
I
elsewhere,
just wondering if it was coming. Oh, thank you.
as far as I'm aware, but yeah.
Any other comments, questions? Alrighty, otherwise I'm looking for a motion.
So. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, that is approved. Alright, item number 7, RO number 104-24-25, a direct referral by Police Chief Kurt Zempel pursuant to section 30-50 of the municipal code, submitting the quarterly report showing the benchmark measurements for the police department for the period commencing October 1st, 2024 and ending December 31st, 2024. Chief?
Well, thank you, and I appreciate you allowing me to speak remotely. I'm at the new Chiefs and Sheriff's School in Madison, and so the timing was great, and lots of good information here to be a part of, so appreciate that. I think as you look at it, just a couple of things maybe to highlight. Overall, we really had an outstanding year last year, especially with regard to property crimes. Our burglaries are probably about as low as they've ever historically been. And just for some context, back around the time when I started in the 2000s, we would easily have over 400 burglaries a year, and last year we had 40. We do see over at least my time in the last quarter of a century that there's fluctuation with regard to especially aggravated assaults. That's just a kind of a stubborn category of crime that's difficult for us to impact. The vast majority of our assaults of all kinds happen inside homes between people who know each other or live together, and so it's very difficult for the police to impact that. Although we do have some ideas on how we might, and some things that we can partner with other agencies in the county to work on. So the other thing that stands out is that we had a pretty significant increase in the value of stolen property. That was really driven by about 2 or 3 very large cases. One theft by fraud all by itself was responsible for a $250,000 loss. That was an estimate, and so we're continuing to investigate that. But there was a subject; it was a family member who was arrested for that crime, and then I don't know that there's much chance of recovering much of that. And then there was also a burglary that's still under, actually a string of burglaries that's still under investigation, of some industrial equipment from a local factory. And that one alone was responsible for a very large value because of the industrial equipment that was stolen. And so those are really both still in progress, even being carried over into this year. I think other positive things, so certainly our traffic crashes remain quite low, even when you compare it to 2020, when we had a good period of time when really nobody was driving. We're pretty much in line with what crashes have been for the last several years. And then the last thing I'll highlight is that our mental health emergency detentions, so this is someone who is in crisis and needs to be essentially committed against their will, is less than half of what we had the year before. And so I think, well, there may be some questions about, are we still getting people connected to the treatment that they need? I think that is still the case. And I think that the preference really is for people to find the resources in the community rather than placing them somewhere, which is a lot of times at a facility somewhere outside the community. And in a lot of cases, even then, they're not really getting ongoing treatment. They're just being held to kind of get through that crisis period, and then being released without really any kind of commitment for follow-up. And so I think when we are working with people to get them on a safety plan instead of committing them, I think is just much better. They're much better outcomes because they're getting more continuity of treatment in the community here.
All right, thank you. Any questions, comments? Alder Perella.
Chief, I see that the breakdown is pretty specific. It's pretty good. I mean, as far as the type of crimes. I don't see, however, anything about human trafficking, which I assume that there is some investigation on that. I assume, but I may be wrong. Or maybe it falls under one of these categories, and I don't know which one.
Yes, so you're catching me a little bit off guard here. So I don't know that there's a specific, so human trafficking can encompass a lot of different crimes. It can be kidnapping, can be sexual assault, can be extortion or theft by fraud or things like that. And so again, I think because it spans other categories, there's not really a way just to identify human trafficking. I did just today get an email from the Sheboygan County Human Trafficking Coalition with their annual report. I haven't had a chance to read it yet, but I imagine they have some statistics on cases that they've touched.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions? Alder Lhps.
Well, not just a comment, actually. We had talked about this earlier. I want to commend the police department for their community officer. I've used your community officers in my work as an alderman on several occasions, and I commend you for that. I would like to see it maybe even ramped up a little bit, if that's possible.
I'm 100% with you. And I really think that if there's one thing that we could attribute the significant drop in property crimes to over the last 10 or 15 years, it's that. It's really working with people in neighborhoods to solve problems, to improve the condition of neighborhoods so that they're not prone to this type of crime, and so that people are looking out for each other and taking responsibility for their property. So, yep, totally agree. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Alrighty, seeing none, I'm looking for, we file this, correct? Yeah, looking for a motion.
Motion to file.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, that's approved. Thanks, chief. Item number 8, RO number 101-24-25 by Fire Chief Eric Monty pursuant to section 24-459 of the municipal code, submitting the quarterly report showing the benchmark measurements for the fire department for the period commencing October 1st, 2024 and ending December 31st, 2024.
Thank you, Chair.
Read it right.
No, you're good. Absolutely good. I'd prefer it actually, but thank you. So everybody should have the information. Just some highlights real quick. We had our highest call volume for the year last year, ended with 7,778 calls, which is about roughly 400 over previous years. Our EMS and non-fire related calls were pretty high, were an increase. So yeah, it's just getting busier, staying busier, just part of the times and the world we live in. 70% of those calls, which is very interesting, 70% are overlapping incidents. So that's a huge, huge increase as well. And it'll probably continue to increase as our workload does as well. So, and again, I've explained that in the past where that's one incident happening while another incident's on, or multiple. Our inspection, so if you recall last year, we went to a new program. So part of that, our inspections kind of went down, but not because we're not doing them. We just also had a lot of light duty individuals last year that were able to assist us. So now without the light duty, which is a good thing, our crews are doing them. So it's just all based on call volume, and the busier we get, we can't do the inspections. Again, part of the world we live in, but we also are concentrating, because that new program of putting our pre-plans, which is basically, like City Hall, where the fire alarm panel is, where the electric panels are for businesses throughout the city. That's what a pre-plan is, so our members know where they need to go in case of an incident. Our training hours, again, with this new program that we are really refining every year, it's allowing us to track everything we're doing. So our training hours are increased, which is good. We just had our ISO meeting earlier this month, and training is a big part of that. So we're continuing to move. Hopefully in the next few years we'll be ISO class 1. You never know. That's my goal, but yeah, it all plays into it. So be glad to answer any questions.
Thanks, Chief. Any questions, comments?
Yes.
Alder Hedman?
Thank you, Chairman. Under the, installing smoke alarms, 96. So how's this come about? Does a resident say, hey, I don't have any smoke alarms. Can you come and put them in for me? Or is it you're someplace and you say, hey, you don't have this proper smoke alarms. We need to put those in.
So not really the latter. It's more, yes, if people don't have one and they call us, we are glad to assist. The exception would be like an apartment building.
Right.
We're not going to install 30 smoke alarms, because that's not the point. That's the landlord not wanting to.
Right.
So we have a deal with Red Cross that they donate all these smoke alarms, and we just have to track when we install them. So if Mrs. McGillicuddy, I don't know if I'm making the name up, but if she's 80 years old, we don't want her climbing a ladder to install. We offer to do that. So that's part of what that is. In businesses, it's not really the case, because they have an alarm system, but it's really in those individual homes or even in an apartment unit. We don't want somebody to get hurt. So if a 90-year-old person can't climb a ladder and they live in an apartment, we'll go help.
Okay, so if a son or daughter goes over to visit mom or dad and the fire alarm's not working, or they got something that's just not feasible to be used, they can call the fire department and say, hey, listen, we got one, can you help us out here? And you guys come and.
Yep, as long as they're in the city. Yeah.
Right.
Yep. Mhm.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Free of charge,
Hey, I need two. No.
double.
Alrighty, any other questions, comments? Alrighty, looking for a motion to file.
Motion to file.
Second.
All in favor?
I,
Chair votes aye. That is filed. Thanks, chief.
Thank you.
Item number 9, RO number 102-24-25 by the city clerk submitting various license applications.
All right, so I have written you a novel here. I'm going to explain this as best I can. There's a lot of moving parts. There's 4 applications here. There's only 2 of them that really, staff had to really work to try and make everything come out in the right way that you guys had originally wanted. So in general, staff is recommending granting the change of agent application from CVS. There's no issues there. Holding the CNG Bar Lounge Class B liquor license application. I will get to that. Granting the Chiang Mai Garden Class B liquor license application. We'll also get to that. And then granting the Watershed Class B liquor license application. So back in October of 2024, the Licensing Hearings and Public Safety Committee met for some presentations that potential bar owners or current bar owners gave to get the opportunity to apply for Class B liquor licenses. The committee at that time allowed CNG Bar and Lounge to apply and allowed Watershed Hotel to apply. At that time, we didn't give a deadline. Normally, and I didn't know this at the time, we normally give a deadline of 10 days, 7 to 10 days to apply. Since we didn't give a deadline at that time, I didn't push very hard since we legally can't, once we give them the opportunity to apply, they get that opportunity. I will remind next time if that happens, don't worry about that. So Watershed and CNG weren't very responsive when we tried to get things going. There was some issues there. Those all got sorted out. When we eventually, I think about maybe 3 weeks to a month later, tried to figure out what was going on with CNG, because I don't know if everybody remembers there. The reason CNG was given the license was because Simon Madrigal had a license that they were temporarily allowing CNG to possess and use. The reason the committee wanted to give CNG the opportunity to apply was because we wanted to make sure that they had that license in perpetuity, as long as they're using that license correctly. So there was some issues trying to figure out exactly how that would all happen. It was brought to my attention and the clerk's attention that Chiang Mai Garden, which is the business next door, completely separate business, separate address, was Mr. Magical was going to sign that license that CNG was using over to Chiang Mai Garden. And please interrupt me if you have any questions at any time. This is going to get very confusing. It's all liquor law stuff and it's confusing. So CNG now had the opportunity to apply. That meant that there was a license sitting out there with Simon Madrigal. Simon Madrigal said he didn't want to use the license anymore, so he wanted to give another business the opportunity to use it. And since Chiang Mai Garden was right next door, he thought that would be a good opportunity. Chiang Mai Garden is a Thai restaurant, and CNG is like a Vietnamese Hmong Asian fusion restaurant, as far as I'm aware. So two separate spaces. So I was very confused because I thought that CNG and Chiang Mai Garden were the exact same thing, considering they both start with CNG. So what happened is that myself, City Attorney Chuck Adams, and the clerk's office called in the owner of CNG, Simon Madrigal, and the owners of Chiang Mai Garden to really sort this all out and figure out what's going on. So ironing out those details took a bit of time. We need to make sure we had all of the law correct on if this is how everybody wanted to do everything. So since Mr. Magical explained that he would like to turn the Class B license that he owned, that CNG was temporarily using, over to Chiang Mai Garden, that would give CNG the opportunity to apply for their license, which is what the committee wanted. So this is the series of events that needed to happen in order for this all go according to the law. Mr. Magical needed to take his license back from C&G and sign it over permanently to Chiang Mai Garden. This has happened. Currently, C&G does not have a liquor license, so we sent police officers over to make sure that they were not operating with their liquor license without having it. And they're currently closed down doing some renovations and some remodeling to make their space even better. So they'll be closed down until they get this license, if that's what the committee wants, as far as I'm aware. Since Mr. Magical signed his license over to Chiang Mai Garden can submit that application. They have done so. I have reviewed it and everything is good to go. There's no substantive issues with C&G's application. And I would recommend that license be granted right now, but that cannot happen because of the way premises work in relation to liquor licenses. So a liquor license at a specific address, and please stop me if I'm rambling, because there's just a lot of info. Let's say I live at 123 Main Street and I have a bar there and I have a liquor license, but I want to give my liquor license over to 125 Main Street. I can't just give that over. That license is tethered to that bar since it was issued to that premise. So what Chiang Mai Garden will have to do, since their license is given to 819 Michigan Avenue, is they will have to apply for a change of premise to change that premise to 823 Michigan Avenue. In addition, there cannot be two liquor licenses at the same location at one time, meaning since the old license is for 819, if we were to grant this new license to 819, that would be two liquor licenses at one spot at the same time. Can't happen. So if the committee is okay with all of this, I've tried to do this in the way that is okay with liquor law and according to what you guys had said in October. So what will have to happen is that if the Chiang Mai Garden application is granted today, they still won't be able to use it until they file the change of premise. That'll have to go through, that'll have to go through council and it'll have to all get approved that way so that it'll change from 819 to 823. Once that is all done, then since there's no premise or no alcohol license currently at 819, then C&G's license can be granted then. Okay. So it's going to take some more time to get C&G their license. That's why I'm holding it.
Okay, question.
Yes, go ahead.
Now, I know in the past there was some language problems. Has that been cleared up and is everybody positively on the same page and it's very clear to all parties concerned?
As far as I'm aware, it is. You know, we went and we had police officers go over to C&G to make sure they weren't using their liquor license when they shouldn't be, and they were just completely shut down to do renovations. They didn't even want to, you know, be open just in case, I don't think. Plus, I think they wanted to make their space better now that they'll potentially have this liquor license. Everybody turned in all their applications in on the date that we had, me, Chuck, and everybody had agreed upon. So they all know what's going on. It's just going to take a little bit more time because this all needs to happen in such a series of events that no liquor law is broken,
Okay.
essentially.
Sure. In the case of the license of the change of premise, now, normally, if he wanted to surrender his license, that license would just come back to the city.
Correct.
Okay, but they can utilize the change of premise instead of having come back to our committee where we would designate who would get that license.
Correct. Yeah. So because Mr. Madrigal, who has the property interest in the license, wants it to go to Chiang Mai Garden, who's next door,
Right.
and they have, you know, a good working relationship. They're all friends, you know, he wants it to go there. Then immediately after you can apply for that change of premise, that permanent change of premise. But I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yes, that is a way to get around it.
Okay, because otherwise I was gonna say, it could be that he would just surrender his license and then they'd come to the committee and we'd grant them the license and
Correct.
it's all
Yes.
done.
Yeah.
But,
So-
and the change of premise is perfectly legal to do.
Yeah.
Nobody's gonna come to us and say, hey, by the way, yeah,
I've spoken with Chuck about this. We have all come together
Okay.
as staff committee to figure out that this is the legal way to do this.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Okay, I appreciate it. It was like clear as mud, but I got through it.
Yeah, it's really hard to make it all understand, especially when they're right next door and it's a whole thing. So,
Well, I guess I just wanted to be fair with all the people that want a license in the
Mhm.
city of Sheboygan.
Yeah.
And if you have a change of premise now, I don't know if that becomes the new way of getting your license.
I hope not.
Me too.
The reason that we're doing it this way is because this is what parties involved want.
Right.
And we're trying to let people, exercise their property interest and use things the way they want to. I can't speak to that. I know where you're coming from and
Okay.
I understand.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
So, but
Yeah.
That means that someone who holds a license is entitled to decide who else can get that license.
Not entirely, I wouldn't say. They have an option. So like sometimes we've done in the past, and this has come through where at the same bar, somebody's selling their bar to another party and they can specifically sign that license over to the person that they're selling it to without it having to come back to the city and then go through the whole presentation thing. So yes, there is some interest there and they can sort of say that. Yeah, it's a sort of a tricky spot that we're in with this one, but because that's what Mr. Magical wants and that's what parties involved want, that's why I'm more inclined to bring it to you this way.
So the only, Chair, just one follow-up, the only one we are holding on is the CNG.
Yes, and the only
Just so I
reason,
post
The other two, we are going to grant them as of today.
so there's two other
Oh,
Class B
three,
liquor
actually.
licenses, and then there's the change of agent. None of these applications have any issues other than
Well,
the procedural stuff.
You have been clear.
all right. Any other questions?
Thank you,
Alderman?
Chair, again. On the Watershed Hotel, now they came to the committee, we granted them the license. Well, I don't know, I thought that was pretty much a
I thought it
clear-cut deal.
myself as well. I think there was some communication issues there with the person that presented. I think there was communication. That's the daughter of the man who's applying, who's
Right.
going to be the agent. I think there was some communication issues between her, the wife, and her mom and her about when and who was going to fill that application out. One party said, "Oh, I thought mom filled it out." Another person said, "Oh, I thought my daughter filled it out. We would have taken care of this a month ago."
Okay.
I gave everybody involved in this a hard deadline to turn their applications in by 2 Wednesdays ago, and everybody did, no problem, once I gave the hard deadline. From now on, when we have this sort of thing, I will recommend to the committee that we give a period of 10 days or 7 days in which someone will have to apply by.
Because I thought it was a situation where they just came right back down. to
That's
City Hall and
That's
they
what we all
just
thought as
get
well,
that
and
going.
yes, that's what we all thought as
That's
well, and
what I
I
would've
kept
done.
investing.
Wow.
Yeah.
I would have turned around and been here the next
I would-
day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Alrighty, any other questions? All right, I'm looking for a motion with staff recommendation.
So moved with staff recommendations.
Second,
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, that's approved. Our next meeting date will be February 12th, 2025. We've exhausted the agenda. I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we are adjourned at
Chief, can I get a
4:58.
meeting?
Thank you.
thank you.